Hey guys, Steven here, Fanatic Perspective. So, as many of you have heard by now, we lost my boy Bryan Carrington to USC. I just want to make this video real quick and say, first and foremost, congratulations, Bryan Carrington. Brother, you will be missed here on the 40 acres. For those who don't know, Bryan Carrington was currently was our director of recruiting and came here under the Tom Herman regime, followed Tom Herman from Houston, was hired by Derek Chang, who's also moving on and been replaced by Drew Hughes, but was hired by Derek Chang as an assistant, I think it was assistant director of player personnel at the time, and quickly became a star here at Texas. So as we just give our thank you and congratulations to Mr. Carrington here on this video, make sure you pop in and show some love and hit that like button. We're getting closer to 10,000 subscribers. I think we're, 12, 1,300 people away. So if you want to be a part of that journey, hit the subscribe button. We appreciate it. But in terms of Bryan Carrington, it cannot be overstated the impact he's had, not just on recruiting, but on the development of young men. Because when I look at especially brothers like him who are young, entrepreneurial minded, you can tell by the way the young man speaks. And I say young man because he has so much out in front of him. And honestly, I've been so impressed. There's been very few people that have impressed me more than Bryan Carrington. By the way, he's carried himself, the creative manner in which he's connected with kids, his usage of social media. I mean, a lot of these guys, Matt Lang, Derek Chang, Bryan Carrington, I know a lot of us have been critical of Tom Herman and things obviously did not work out to his favor in that regime, or else he'd still be here and we wouldn't be with Coach Sark, right? But there was some good. There was a lot of good, and there were good people here. And Bryan Carrington was one of those good people, and that's why it's a big loss for Texas, because the moment Tom Herman got fired, you saw more tweets from our players saying keep Bryan Carrington than you saw of, oh, I'm sad that Coach Herman got fired. Like, think about that. Think about that. The impact he had on that 2018 recruiting class that finished, I think, third overall in the country, 247 Sports at least, 2019 class. And I know, so we had some people go in and out. 2020, his involvement in the Bijan Robinson recruitment. Bryan Carrington is, you talk about the good of the culture and what he's doing on and, more importantly, off the field. I love the fact that he used to share graphs on social media about, the benefit of being at Texas and, not just what you could do from the NFL perspective, but what you could do from a career perspective, a corporate perspective, a business perspective, entrepreneurial perspective. That's why I said the brother was very entrepreneurial minded. And that's why he was also in very high demand. After that 2018, run where he was involved, and there was a player in particular who he was very involved in recruiting. And we're doing the whole movement, Sean Jameson, all those boys, right? Marmion Overshown. But after that, we had to give him a raise because LSU's coming knocking on the door, and we bump him up to director of recruiting, rightfully so. And, they're one of the reasons why Steve Sarkisian doesn't have to start from scratch and why many of us feel this team should be very competitive in the Big 12, if not challenging for the Big 12 year one, is because of the talent, the young men he helped get in this building. And I know many of you guys have seen, I know I have, the Inside Texas report and the 247 report about Tom Herman in particular and the things that were being said about him and, how he was handling himself over his 4 years within the building, the things behind the scenes, the things that if I had known, my opinion's probably very different. I'm sure Tran could say the same. If I had known that at the time of, if those reports came out at the time of him potentially being talked about being let go. Like, it was some very, very hard stuff to hear about how people's recruitments were being handled, how people were being treated on the team, how people's injuries were being handled, all sorts of questionable things. But when you look at how hard the team was still playing, and the fact that we didn't have even more attrition, and the way that the players were still riding for BC, you don't have to look any further than that. And that's why teams like USC are coming after him. That's why teams like LSU came after him. And so he's gonna be great in LA. They already have another stud brother over there in Dante Robinson, who's a hell of a recruiter, who's their cornerback coach and pass game coordinator. And we already know about the contingent of Texas players and coaches and all these folks that have gone over to USC: Keontae Ingram, Craig Nivar, Todd Orlando, Xavier Alford, and y'all's personal favorite, Mr. Brew McCoy. Um, yeah, he'll do great things over there in California, and we'll probably go head to head against him in Texas. He's still a Houston boy, and his story of coming up and some of the adversity he faced at a young age, it is a relatable one to young men, especially young black men that are coming up, and you want to see yourself in a lot of ways in that representation. Bryan Carrington was one of the best and had one of the best pitches in the country at establishing just that, relationships. So that will be missed. You want to talk about, let me share this with y'all. Like, and I know it's already been 3 years since Joseph Osai, committed to Texas, and he's been here, but like, check out this video when he committed, right? Like, it's already been this is Bryan Carrington, guys.
Hey, BC, I got you.
I mean, you consider even the graphics and the hashtags and all that. He knew how to connect with kids. That's Joseph Osai, looking skinny as hell, who came into our program and left here as a consensus All American. Hopefully, will be a first round pick. So, you know, and when it comes to BC, all is when it, again, salute, brother. And I hope from now, where does Texas go from here, right? Because Steve Sarkisian, there's a lot of people talking about how, did Sark want to keep him? Did he want to go in a different direction? All those things. I think it does say something that it took as long as it did to get clarity and closure on the Bryan Carrington thing. Um, you know, they've moved pretty swiftly with all things considered, and him having to coach a national championship game. They've moved pretty quickly. The Bryan Carrington thing took time because I'm sure Steve Sarkisian, also being a former head coach and being a USC guy, which is funny in itself, he's going to want to establish his own culture and the own way of recruiting and how he attacks the state of Texas, how they attack all these regions geographically. I'm sure there's things in context and people he picked up at Alabama that he wants to establish here. And some of the things I'm hearing are very, very promising. But you can't replace a Bryan Carrington. What you hope you can do is still get some good people in the building that can establish those relationships and build trust with young guys so that when adversity hits, and adversity will hit when they get here, no matter how good the program's doing, they have somebody like a BC in the building to lean on to get through those tough times. I think things like that are critical. Name, image, likeness is coming up. Bryan Carrington's going to be a superstar with that at USC. And, many of us had heard about the beginning of the leverage program here at UT. I'm very curious to see Steve Sarkisian, Chris Del Conte, how the athletic department chooses to, navigate that particular, new realm of college football, college athletics, and seizing the day, because I don't think there's a school out there that has a better advantage to name, image, likeness than the University of Texas. Now, I may be biased as a Texas fan, but when you look at the brand and how strong it is and how it still resonates across the airwaves, name, image, likeness is coming. Who's going to be that entrepreneurial person, that innovative spirit that Steve Sarkisian, this whole brain trust brings along to seize that opportunity? The last thing I wanted to touch on is, to Steve's credit, Drew Hughes, he's been on some big staffs and part of some big recruitments, Florida, Alabama, South Carolina, and he's coming on from South Carolina previously with Will Muschamp, and assuming the same role here. And Chris Gilbert, who was a head coach up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area for a Lancaster, and he was been coaching high school ball, I think, at Lancaster since 2011, so 10 years, and played and coached at Oak Cliff, and somebody who checks the boxes for your Texas High School Football Coach Association, was a very highly regarded, highly respected head coach in the community, in the area, somebody that people know and can touch, somebody who it will be relatable because he's younger, person of color. Like, you're checking a lot of boxes there if you're Steve Sarkisian in terms of, again, connecting, establishing those relationships. He's been hired as the high school high school director of relations, if you will, for the state of Texas. So that's a lot of you, especially that are up in the DFW area, who are much more familiar with Chris Gilbert than I am, are thrilled about this hire and already talking about all the schools that we now have access to that we've been really, really struggling with recruiting. And that's a hotbed where you're talking about Ohio State, Oklahoma, Alabama, Notre Dame, all recruiting out of that area, and countless others. So Texas needs to start keeping guys at home and having a plan for that. And the other thing is with Sark, I think their plan ultimately is to double the size of the recruiting department, and hopefully Chris Del Conte and them, they figure out how to get more funds allocated to that and have more resources aligned, so we can attack strategically in some of these regions a lot better with people. And again, going back to a previous video I made, hitting that portal as well. So all's not doomed for Texas or anything. The Chris Gilbert, Drew Hughes, we'll see how else they fill out the department. I think the department's going to be huge. So it's not going to be necessarily, not like a one-man band the way it was with BC, so to speak, but I'm optimistic for what these guys are putting together. You guys chime in the comments what you think. I always love to read through and actually learn from you guys. That's another way we share information here in our community, little Texas community. So I'm thankful for y'all within the Texas community, within all the Big 12, all the college football fans that watch my videos, that have been praying for my mother. Quick update on her: she is still on the ventilator for COVID. She's stable, hanging in there. Unfortunately, haven't been able to attack the cancer treatment because she's sedated right now. So it's been a tough time for my brother and I and our whole family, but we're all hanging tough. These videos, just healthy distraction for me to get through, these dark times. But I know God's love and all the love that you guys are putting forth to her is going through. So very, very thankful for that. By the way, just announced, and I'll be posting on Twitter, I am going live tomorrow on RJ Young's channel, Fox Sports 1 or Fox Sports, college football analyst RJ Young. So let me put some respect on that brother's name. Excited to chat with him again. A great, great friend of mine. We have some exciting things to talk to you guys about on that live tomorrow, 3 p.m. Central Time. I'll post a link here in the description or in the comment. But guys, appreciate y'all. Horns always up.